Good afternoon or good evening. Welcome to another edition of Medicine Makers, where if your destination is a career in medicine, we're going to show you how to get there. I am your host, Dr. Lamenta Sweetie Conway, and we have an exciting show planned for you on today.
Yes.
And we have a guest. I'm going to tell you about her, this amazing young lady that's sitting over to my right. But in the meantime, I want to tell you a couple of things. First of all, I'm Dr. Lamenta Sweetie Conway. As I mentioned, I'm the founder and executive director of I Am Abel Foundation, where our mission is to raise up our next generation of healthcare heroes. So if you have a young person out there who is interested in becoming a physician or exploring other areas of healthcare, we ask that you send them to www.iamabel.org. Also, we have some fun, exciting things that are coming up, and we just invite you or remind you or encourage you to take a look at our website because it's a very interactive website and lots of information there. One of the things that's coming up is on Sunday, August the 4th. We're going to have our Top Docs and Hot Shots 3-on-3 basketball tournament. It is aimed at our 5th through 8th grade boys. And I know, Yemko, you know that there is a disappearance of black men, black people, people of color from medicine, specifically black men. Actually, in 1970, we had more black physicians that were black men than we do on today. So we're going backwards in time, even though they tell us that things have changed. Many things have changed and many things have stayed the same. Our 3-on-3 basketball tournament aims to get the attention of our young boys because we do know that you have to see it to be it. So if you have a young boy that wants to enjoy some basketball, but also visit the anatomy lab, learn about a little bit of CPR, talk to some of our black and Latino male physicians, particularly, have them go to www.iamable.org to sign up. Also, just a little housekeeping. If you have any questions, we have a hot topic today that we're going to be talking about,
Yes.
which is research. And have you done your research? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And if you're interested in calling in and asking some questions, just call 312-738-1060. I want to let our guests know that you can find us live on Channel 21 or Channel 99, or you can stream us live at cantv.org/hotline. So, got all of those preliminaries out the way. I am so pleased to have Yemko Pryor with us.
Yes.
This beautiful young woman, I had the pleasure of meeting her when we were both actually speakers at a STEM event at Oberlin College back in January. It was an amazing time, and I was blown away to see this young woman of color talk about research with so much enthusiasm.
Thank you.
So welcome, Yemko.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. And this girl, this young lady, is from Chicago. This is Chi-Town's
this is
own.
my city, right? This is my city. Okay.
Exactly. She is from here, born and raised. So I just think it's such an interesting, it's a great perspective to be a young black woman that is engaged at the forefront of research.
Yep.
And I want to first start off our talks by asking you, what is the importance of research? Why should we even care?
So, I never thought I was going to be into research. I thought I was going to go the medicine route. But I got to this point where I was in college and I was doing a lot of research papers. I decided to double major in biology as well as Africana studies. And in that I was finding, thinking about research, thinking about contributing to new knowledge. And that to me became super important because I was like, here I have the opportunity to take my perspective as a black woman with my knowledge, infuse it with my knowledge and my passion for science. And then from that, create a new avenue of knowledge that I felt was missing, that I wanted to see, that I knew that other people who look like me, who think like me, also needed to see. So for me, that's when the light bulbs came up. And I was like, this is why research is important. This is why we need more black people in research, because the things that I was saying to especially my biology professors, some of them would sit there and be like, why has nobody done this before?
Yeah, right.
And I was like, because you wouldn't have me. That's
right.
Really, that's why.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Because there wasn't somebody who was like me sitting at that table, putting together the things that I've experienced in my life and packaging them up with, and labeling them with the right terminology that those people who are in the room were familiar with.
Yes.
I was able to use that tool set along with my own experience as a black woman and then create something from that I'm still creating and that I will continue to create. So
I think that's very important, and it kind of, I think we should tell make sure that our young people know that a lot of times just throughout the course of the day we have questions.
Exactly.
And nobody's answering
exactly.
them. And maybe it's because the world is waiting for you.
And that's
you.
That was literally it. That's it. If you are curious, if you have questions, write them down. Definitely write all of them down and come back to them, because you can be the one to find the answers. And for me, that's why research is so important, because I know there's so many curious minds out there just waiting to find where they can express all that curiosity. And for me, that was in research. It was where I could be creative about how I expressed my curiosity. And so I definitely recommend that to other people. Just like I said, keep those questions in your head, keep them written down, keep a book. I have definitely a book, a chapter of questions that one day, hopefully I'll have the answers to many of them. But that is valid. Your questions are valid, and you will find the answers to them.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the research that you've done, that you started at least in Oberlin.
Yeah.
And then we know that you had the opportunity to do a post-bac at the University of Chicago with the NIH prep scholars program. We'll talk a little bit about some of the exciting work that you're doing. But you were talking about answering questions that we have.
Yeah.
And we know that there's always been this need, and usually it's been the majority who has undertaken answering these questions.
Exactly.
And as such, we have the dark side of research.
Yep.
And I put up here the book, Medical Apartheid, The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to Present. And it is an outstanding and an astonishing and sometimes disheartening work that was actually done by Harriet Washington.
Yes.
And you want to talk a little bit, if you can, about why black people especially have so many fears and misgivings and lack of trust when it comes to research.
Well, I mean, as Harriet Washington kind of showed us chronologically through history, there has been a history of trauma, a history of distrust when it comes to research, scientists, and medical professionals. So if you have the chance and the opportunity to read the book, I highly recommend it.
Yes.
I read it when I was 19 years old, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
And it was another sign from me, like, this, you need to interrogate this, here you go, it's an opportunity. But so in the book, she, like I said, goes through history and details chronologically how we started with, European colonists traveling to the continent, traveling to Africa, and their notes were just filled with looking at really the physique of the, individuals that they encountered and noting their differences. And then eventually it escalated to putting people in cages and, showing them off as zoo features, basically, to eventually the instrumentation and the invention of modern gynecology by J. Marion Sims, that was born out of unlawful, without anesthesia, all this experimentation on black women.
Yes.
And it was brutal, but that went on for such a long time, and it is still, I think arguably still can be going on today. And even with, again, like through the Tuskegee syphilis experiments and the trials with that. So there has been a case built up of centuries that has left us without trust for our medical, participants, and for our physicians and for our researchers and for participating in research, because our participation in research and science has been violated before. Our bodies have been violated in participating in that, which is why I understand the hesitance I myself have been hesitant to participate in research trials, and I've been on both sides. I've been in the bench, on the
Yes.
bench doing the research, but also sitting in the chair having the questions answered of me, feeling like anxious, feeling this
Yes.
anxiety, and really what it is it's ancient anxiety that has been built over centuries again. So to that is why I feel and why I know that it is difficult for Black people to participate in things like clinical trials and research, but it is important for us to do that. But for us to also be on the other side and actually conducting the research, so that we make sure that it is ethical, that it is lawful, that we do have people who are in those seats who we trust.
Yes.
And again, that was another motivator for me. Like, I need to be in those seats because I'm in these lectures, I'm reading these papers where they're missing a whole group of people that I'm missing from the research that is now, being thrown out as the forefront of medicine. We at cancer drug treatments, all these kinds of things, but I'm not seeing it working for my community. I'm not seeing my community represented in that. Why is that? Because of this distrust. So what can I do to mitigate that?
I think that it is critical that we participate in a very formidable way
Yep.
in research. I think one of the things that intimidates a lot of our young people is that they believe that research is very geeky or
Yes.
dorky. They believe that all research is also behind the bench.
Yeah.
But also, research can be from a public health perspective.
Exactly.
Using mathematical models and epidemiological tools
Yep.
in order to understand
Yep.
disease trends and then perhaps study other
Exactly.
things biologically. And I say that because we are now looking at a disturbing trend of African American women experiencing more mortality. In the year 2019, in delivery, there's more maternal fetal death and incidences among women of color than other ones.
And preterm birth as
And
well.
preterm birth.
Yes. To that, so I also thought research was super nerdy
Sure.
and geeky, but I also knew that I was a nerd because I was like, girl, you like to learn. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I love school. There are so many different things to do in research. So I didn't think I would like the bench work. Then I was like, actually, this is pretty interesting, the tools and techniques that I'm learning. Now, especially with genetics, which is what I'm mostly interested in, there's a giant push, I think in all science, towards more computerized data. So bioinformatics is what the field is called. We're using data sets and computerized models and also like genetic data because it is code. You are then putting code into the computer to massage the data, to create figures and all these kinds of things, to analyze it. For me, I was like, I thought, I was like, I don't want to do code. That's crazy. But I got in there and I was like, there's so many things I can do because I know how to talk to a computer. Basically, is essentially the skill that I'm learning.
Sure.
And that's another skill that I can put under my tool belt. So in that way, I would say that research is infinite in a lot of ways. And like I said, you can use your own creative agency to kind of push you through the different channels of research that you go through. And you can specify in multiple different things, which is another thing that I really enjoyed. But and again, that's what kind of directed me here and doing research on the things that you were bringing up. So at the University of Chicago.
Thank you. I was going to say, tell us a little bit about what you did there.
Yes. So at the University of Chicago, I was working in a lab, and my project was looking at nutrition in pregnancy, specifically in African American women, and understanding how stress and nutrition are involved in preterm birth and risk for preterm birth. Because as we know, African American women, especially in cities like Chicago, are twice as likely to experience preterm birth than white women, and 1.5 times more likely to experience preterm birth than women of Hispanic heritage. So we see this giant disconnect. How come all these other women are able to just have, or more regularly have term births and don't experience death from pregnancy, but we're seeing it higher in African American women? We, and many researchers are now pointing towards stress. And that stress is coming from just day-to-day socioeconomic stress, racism, basically overall white supremacy, but also is what we were talking about before, what Harriet Washington has detailed is a history of that kind of trauma, is a history of that memory that I believe is still in a way in our bodies.
And that speaks to epigenetics a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, a
So
little
there's
bit.
a term that we talk about in research called epigenetics. And I want you to
Yes.
talk about that a little bit. And then if you can segue into precision medicine. And I
Yeah.
want to talk about that as it relates to even, I know all of us out here have heard about the effects of breast cancer on women of color.
Yep.
Not only just the incidence, but how much more aggressive it tends to be, how it is
Yeah.
expressed genetically, and then
Yeah.
the options that we have for even taking care of them. So,
Right.
talking a little bit about epigenetics, basically talking about the history of trauma in some ways on us and how that expresses ourselves. Talk a little bit about that, and then why, again, is it so important for our young people who are out there? Many of you want to be doctors, and you know that I am all for it. But we even have doctors who are researchers, or then you might
Yes.
even be like Yemko,
Yeah.
who actually was going down this pathway, but fell in love with the concept of answering our own questions.
Yeah.
Because if you don't answer them, other people out there don't really care about
Yeah.
why black women are experiencing breast cancer
That's
in
true.
the way that they're experiencing it. They're actually, the world is waiting for you, to
Yep.
be completely
It
honest.
is. It
Talk a
really
little bit
is.
about epigenetics and precision, basically precision research.
Yes. So epigenetics, as you said, is a field of study, and it is, as the name suggests, above the genome. So you're studying changes in gene expression that don't have to do with changes in the sequence itself, but other proteins that, like attach the DNA to help it be read or not read, basically. So
How does that show up if you were to put that in simple layperson's
Yeah.
term?
Yes. Yes.
What are we really saying is happening
The
with
environment.
genes?
So it's
There you
it's
go.
the environment. It's how your environment basically is shaping the way that certain genes are read. So your environment can be things like day-to-day stressors, which I'm very much interested in.
Yeah.
But also things like diet, even and actual climate. There's all these even resources, the things you eat, like the things you can grow in the areas where you're at. That all has to influence your epigenome, and it influences the way that certain genes are read. So it's not that your genes or your genome is mutated, nothing has changed, but the expression, whether it's made or not, is what's changed due to your environment.
And because the stresses that we experience as people of color, it's just different. How does that relate to precision medicine or
Right.
precision research?
So I think for precision research is super important, and it is vital for especially African Americans to participate in precision research and research trials as much as possible, even though I know there comes the stress aspect that we just talked about.
Oh, yes.
And the the distrust. So the thing about precision medicine is now medical fields are moving towards developing treatments that are designed for the individual rather than the average American, because what is the average American? You know what I mean? We are a quote unquote melting pot, apparently. So how can you average everyone in this country to one person?
Sure.
And that's how a lot of our drugs are currently made. So precision medicine has been developed to use actual genomic data and genetic information, as well as health surveys, other medical records and your medical history, to then develop drug treatments that are designed specifically for you. Now, the issue and the reason that there are now research programs like the All of Us research program that is popping up is because with the current genetic databases, they are overwhelmingly white and have basically almost only genetic data from those of European ancestry. So now, like I just said, let's say a cancer drug treatment, many of them have been made using that genetic data.
Yeah.
But that only will then work for, let's say, those of European ancestry, but it might not work the same for those of us who aren't.
Yes.
And so that's why then it is important for us to participate in these types of research programs if possible. Now, again, there is the distrust, and then there is the power of question. And I know that it is hard and it is intimidating to question somebody who is supposed to have some type of authority in a situation, to question a doctor, you know what I mean, to question a researcher. But it is important, because that's how you will get your answers, and that's how you'll know, what is expected of you, and that's also how they will know that you are really wanting to be directly involved in your own data and in whatever you're offering. And so for that, I think it is, again, extremely important for more African Americans to get involved in research on both ends.
And to that end, you mentioned this new buzzword, and I wanted to say it again because you guys are going to hear about it because they're aggressively campaigning
Yes.
for good reason, and it's called All of Us. And the reason why I know that they're aggressively campaigning because they didn't email me 4 times and called me 4 times, and they want me to sign up, and they want my and here I am. I'm a doctor with a master's degree in public health. In epidemiology and biostatistics,
Yes.
and you would think that as a person that is educated in this area, that I would have a greater appreciation for the research. But I too, I think we talked about this earlier,
Yeah.
struggle about whether or not I wanted to release my electronic health records.
Exactly.
Because you often wonder where this is going. I think I worried a little bit less about the samples because I felt like that could be a little bit more random and the surveys. But there is an initiative that is going on across the United States called All of Us. And I have to say, I'm thankful that for the first time that I can remember, and definitely in my adult life, there is an initiative that includes all of us. They're really actually looking and aggressively seeking people of color like myself, and I really appreciate that. So in a word for that, yes or no, would you participate in All of Us?
Yes. Yes, I definitely would. It is the future. If we will be, and we will be, involved in medicine, it is important for us to participate in these trials.
And not just for us guys, but for the whole generations that are going to come.
Exactly.
Yes, we have a caller. What's your caller? You're on the air. It looks like we may have lost our caller, but if they come back, we'll let them go through. Yemko, I know you have an exciting life in front of you. This is amazing. It's funny how life takes a turn and a twist. Because here, we were trying to recruit you to medicine to become a doctor, but you decided to do, I would have to say, I won't say more important work, but God knows it's equally important. Because we can't even do science, because true doctors, really, it's based on science.
Yeah,
we need people like you to set the science, teach the science, because that's how we come up with our medical plans based on research.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I want to talk about is where you're going to be going in the fall.
So I'm super excited. Actually, in a few weeks, I will be moving down to Atlanta to start a PhD program at Emory University in genetics and molecular biology.
That is awesome.
So I'm very excited about it. I am excited for this new change, the new city. I am going to miss Chicago.
Of course.
But Atlanta is also a great place.
It is.
And one of the greatest things about being at Emory University specifically is it is literally right next door to the Center for Disease Control.
Yeah, it's right there.
The CDC is right next door.
And we're going to take this caller in just a moment, but what would you tell our young people who want to explore research? Because a lot of our kids that are in our program, they don't go to some of the institutions like Oberlin or University of Chicago, where there's so many opportunities for research.
Yeah.
What do we tell our kids who are going to the cities of Chicago College?
Yep.
Yeah.
To just, persist. It is about perseverance and persistence, and it is about advocating for yourself, even though that is super difficult. So I know I've struggled with what's called impostor syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Not feeling that, even though I know that I can do these things, I go into those spaces and I'm like, I don't belong here. So I don't then want to speak to my talents. Always speak to your talents, to your strengths. And, go out there and seek it. So for me, a lot of it was just online, looking up programs, reaching out to professors, to teachers who I had good relationships with, and asking them for help and asking them for their guidance. And there you can build your own path, and you really can build your own case for anything that you want to do in the world as long as you persevere.
Absolutely. Is the caller still there?
I'm here.
Okay, go right ahead.
Are there any other research opportunities paid?
That's a good one.
Yes, and that's the best part. Because, especially when I was in high school, so I didn't do exact research, but I did early science research in high school, and there were summer internships in which they were actually funded. And through the website REU, and also the American Medical Association. They both have websites where they detail a bunch of paid internships for both undergraduates and also postgraduates for summer. A lot of them are summer opportunities, but even the one I did at the University of Chicago was also paid. So it is possible.
And I want to tell you guys, also go to the National Institutes for Health.
Yes, NIH.
In the city, Fermi Lab, Argonne Lab. These are ones that have a lot of programs for the young kids, like in high school. Oh boy.
And After School Matters.
After School Matters.
After School Matters.
FDA.
As well, Museum of Science and Industry.
Those are ones that you can check out. We need you in research. You guys are going to set the course. You're going to come up with the things that are going to save us and save our population.
Yes.
So we want to thank Yemko Pryor, our future Dr. Yemko Pryor, and we wish her well on her journey to to Emory University by way of University of Chicago.
Yes,
we're going to miss you. You are the very representation of Chicago's finest.
I appreciate that.
Bless you. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week on Medicine Makers.